This is chapter 9 video. I've been trying to make it for a while. I apologize. There's been a delay. I just haven't been able to get a quiet home. I still feel like I don't have a quiet home, so I apologize for any background noises you might hear. But we're just going to go with it because I have a lot of media content that I got to put out there, especially since you guys should be finished up the midterm now. Before we actually go into chapter 9, though, I'd like to give an example of inheritance. And I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up the whiteboard. Okay, so one of the best examples I can give is like a media rental place where you can rent like movies and books and perhaps video games. Okay, so we'll just say our name of our company is called Media Rental. Okay, we have this company called Media Rental, and the types of things that we can rent out is a movie, a book, and a video game. Now, for making classes for each one of these things, some attributes that would be associated with each one of these medias is, we'll say, a title. I meant for that to be red. Oh well. So, title, you have a genre, and a book and a media have the same thing. A book will also have a title and a genre, and a video game will have a title and a genre. All right. Some things that are specific to each one of these medias is a movie will have a director. The movie also has actors and all kinds of things associated, but I don't want to go into too much detail. So we'd say the director has a lead actor and a release date, like when the movie was released. A book will have an author and a published date. All right, video games. Let's see, video games will have like a publisher, like a publishing company. And also a release date. I guess, let's see. I guess like characters in the games and all that, but I don't want to get into too much detail. I think this is good for now. Okay. Now, all of these things have things in common. So the idea behind inheritance is that we can make this base class, we'll just say media, we'll call it media, that will have some attributes that all of these things have in common. So obviously the first two are things it has in common. So all of these things have a title and a genre. Now, the whole date thing, you can probably get away with it by let's just saying the date it was published, right, or released. We'll just say, I don't know about published date. We'll just call, I don't know. For now, we'll just call it date, okay? So we don't need title, genre, or the release date on the movie. We don't need title, genre, or published date on the book. We don't need title, genre, or release date on the video game, okay? Now, because we have this media class that all of these components are going to inherit from, we don't have to manage a title or genre or release date in a movie, book, or the video game, right? So now the movie can just focus on managing instance data that is pertinent or, it only pertains to that particular class. So a movie can only worry about managing director, lead actor. A book would be author and, I don't know, maybe like main character or something like that, right? A video game would be the publishing company, and maybe a good thing to know about a video game is, excuse me, good thing to know about a video game would be the number of players, right? So whether like it's an online game or something like that, right? I don't know, but there's different attributes that you can add to a video game that a movie and a book will not have. Okay, so this is the whole idea behind inheritance, is that you want to make this movie class, you want to make this book class, you want to make this video game class, but they have things that are in common that don't necessarily need to be managed within that particular class. They can be moved up to a parent class or a super class, right? So in Java, this would be the parent or the super class. And these would be the child or sub class. Right, so the video game, the book, and the movie would be the child or the subclasses. Okay, so let's go ahead and program this up. I'm just going to type this up really quick. So I went ahead and made a project called Chapter 9 Inheritance Demo 1. This is in Dropbox. You can look at this. So let's go ahead and make the media class. So I'll make a Java class. I'm going to call this one media. And some things that we said are going to be managed in media is the title, because everything has a title. The genre. And the date. For date, I don't know if I should use a date object or something else. We'll just go with, a lot of times dates are stored as long for the number of milliseconds away from the epoch time, so that you can get the actual date in a program. But you know, we'll just go ahead and do it. We'll just say, we'll just call it release date. All right, so I have all this stuff for media. I'm going to go ahead and generate my getters and setters. And let's go ahead and create a constructor as well. We'll also say we need all that information whenever making the media. Okay, and I believe that's all we want for now. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a test class for this. I'm gonna call this one media rental test. All right, and make my main method, so public static void main. And I'm going to go ahead and instantiate media, and I'll make up a new media right now. All right, so instead of, I don't have my movie, my book, or any of that created just yet, but let's just say I'm going to just make a movie, and we'll call this one Star Wars. And the genre is science fiction. And the release date, now this is where it gets kind of sketchy, I guess, because I did put a long in for my date. I have to actually figure out like when it was released and convert that to milliseconds. So it was released like in the 70s or something, in the late 70s. I'm making this more complicated than it has to be, but I'm gonna go ahead and just make this a year. Oops, we'll just say like 1977. Okay, I'm gonna hop back over to media, and instead of making it a long, actually we'll just leave it a long, but we're not using it correctly because the long that I'm expecting is the number of milliseconds. That's the epoch time, which we can actually get a month, day, and year out of that. For now, I'm just putting in the year because I don't want to mess with it. All right, and then I made the object. I just want to print out the object just to see my object has been created. I don't have a toString, so let me go ahead and create one. All right, hop back over here and run. All right, so there you go. I've made a movie, right? And I can come and make a media for a book, but there's more finer details from a book and a movie that we would have to add to media that wouldn't make sense to have for one and not the other. Like I could come over here and say, okay, well, this is a movie. I want to put in a director, or this is a book. I also want to go ahead and add an author. Okay, for a video game, it would be like publishing company. Okay, so the way inheritance works is if we have things that are children, we'll just make that child class. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a class for a movie. I'm going to make a class for a book. All right, now for the movie, I can, the way this works is if you tell Java it inherits from media, you have to use the extends keyword. So I'm going to say extends media. All right, and now it's upset at me, and the reason why it's upset at me is because I created a constructor on my media class. It wants me to make a constructor that matches media. So it takes in the string, and a long. I need a constructor that also takes in the string, and long. I can't have a constructor that is empty unless I make an empty constructor. If I come over here and say public movie, don't take any parameters, and then I have to call my superclasses constructor, because the only way to create that parent is to pass in a string, and a long. Okay, so now it's happy. I'm inheriting from the media class, okay, but I'm a movie. So I'm gonna go to my driver class, I'll go ahead and create movie. I'll say this is movie is equal to new movie. Now it doesn't make sense for me to have a constructor that doesn't take any data, right? So now I'm going to output my movie. And run. All right, and you can see there is my movie that I created. All right, it doesn't really do anything, but you can see it inherited from media. So it does have a title, a genre, and a release date, even though I don't have any of that information, any of that instance data in here. It's because it inherited from the media class. It's still there. It's just not been set, because when I instantiated my object, that's what I passed to my constructor of the media class. So if I actually wanted to set that, what I have to do is come over here and say, okay, well, movie set genre, and we'll just say drama. Movie set title, and I don't know. I can't think of a movie. Sorry, I should have thought about all this before I started. I guess I could say Star Wars 2. I don't know. Star Wars 2. All right, so save this and print this out. Save, run. You can see from the output now that we're able to use the setter to set that information. Now, even though I did not define a getter and setter on movie, because it inherits from media, it gets all the methods that media has. And then and the media manages the title, genre, and release date. The movie does not have to manage any of that information. So things specific to a movie, you said, were the director and the lead actor. All right, save that and come over here and I'll just generate. Getter and setter. and I'll generate my toString. All right, so now let's see what happens when I run this. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to set lead actor or director, but let's go back to our driver class and run this one more time. But you can see that that information is null, meaning that it was never set. Okay, it's not even empty, it just was never actually set. So if I wanted to set that, I would have to explicitly have to invoke those methods. So on my movie, the set director, this is George Lucas. Then set lead actor. Dang, I don't even know who's the lead actor in Star Wars. I have no idea. I guess it's Mark Hamill, maybe Luke Hamill. I don't know if that's what you spell it. 1 L, 2 L's. I have no idea. All right, but I'm going to save that and dang it. I'm trying to scroll up and run this. Run. All right, and you can see that that information got set. Now, because I created a toString on my movie class, it's no longer using the toString for the media class. Okay, if I wanted for some reason to call the toString on my media class, I can use the keyword super and toString, and then maybe concatenate it like right here. Okay, so this will actually call the toString on my parent class. So it's going to use this toString in medium. So it's going to use that toString and then add some additional information specific to this movie. Come over here and run. And you can see that that toString has all that information now. All right, so now that we kind of have an idea or concept of inheritance, let's actually make this make more sense. So whenever you make a movie, you probably aren't gonna like take in nothing as your constructor, right? You're probably also going to take in all the same information. So I'm going to be a little bit lazy here, and I'm going to just copy all of that. And you're also going to take in information about the director and information about the lead actor. So you're going to pass the title to your superclass, and you're going to pass the genre to your superclass, and then you're going to pass in the release date as well. All that goes to your media constructor, and now let's set information specific for this movie. Now the interesting thing about inheritance is you cannot actually have direct access to instance data of the parent. So I can't come over here and say this dot title. I have to use get title and set title. Okay, I can't just say like, oh, change the title to something else. Okay, IntelliJ is already telling you can't do that. The only way to do that is to make, instead of using private here, you can use protected, and protected will allow the movie to use that title. That's the only way you can get children to manipulate instance data, is by making the instance data protected instead of making it private. But if there's no need for a movie to manipulate title because it has a getter, it has a setter, it could just use that, right? Like, so the movie's like becoming a client of the media services. It has to set title by calling get name, or set name, or excuse me, set title, and it has to get title by calling get title, right? So it's like using its interface instead of manipulating the data directly. All right, so I'm done here with the movie. come over here, and this is upset at me. Okay, and the reason it's upset is because I changed my constructor. Let me go ahead and comment out media up top, and I have to add in the director and the lead actor. Media is no longer available, so let's just change this to, so I want to create my object, I want to print out information about my object. I'm going to set director, like I'm manipulating director, so I'll just say director is, we'll just say it's me, and I'll be the lead actor as well. And drama, okay, keep it drama. And let's change the title to Star Wars A Space Drama. All right, let's go ahead and run this. All right, there you go. There's, when I first intentioned my object, there's me actually manipulating the data. Now for the book, right, here's my book. I haven't really done anything with it, but we're also going to extend the media class. Now it's also upset because of the constructor. Now the cool thing about IntelliJ is if you hover over this, highlight this, and on Windows you press Alt Enter. On Mac I believe it's Option Enter. It's going to give you like what's wrong with this, right? Create the matching super constructor, and it just basically matched up the constructor. Okay, so we didn't have to do, we didn't have to type that out ourselves. So we said that a book is going to have an author, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add author to my constructor. All right, and I'll just say like this, author is equal to the author that's being passed in, and I'll go ahead and auto generate my getters and setters, or my getter and setter, and my toString. And I'll go ahead and call my super classes toString, because I can see that data. All right, hop back over to my test class. Now let's create a book. All right, so we have book of a title, we have a genre, we have the year that it was published. We'll use the book for this class for this, and then you have an author. All right, so for the book we'll say the title is Java Software Solutions. The genre would be educational, and the year way off. Author, Lewis. Let me see. I have the book right here. There's also a publishing company as well. So the video game had a publishing company. The book also has a publishing company. I guess movies also have a publishing company. So maybe that's something we can move up to the media class. But the author is, it just says Lewis. I don't know the first name. And we'll just output the book info right here. All right, so let me go ahead and run this. All right, and there you go, right? There's my book info. So the benefits of inheritance is what we call software reuse. Now, if I did not have this immediate class, I could have created the book and I could have created the movie, but the book and the movie would have to manage the title, the genre, and the release date. But since I moved it to a superclass, right, that information is then managed by the media class. So I don't have to include that in my movie. I don't have to include it in my book. And if I wanted to make a video game class, I would not have to include it in my video game class. So that is the advantages of inheritance.